Hey, what's up everybody? It's April 30th, 2019, so that means we are ready for this week's TNT Tuesday. All right, so I'm pulling out the big guns tonight. This is going to be a hefty episode because we're going to go out there and we're going to investigate how to do wiring using Autodesk Inventor. This is something a lot of people, I guarantee you've probably seen the icon before, but you were never courageous enough to actually go out there and try it. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and it's definitely one of those video tutorials I'm definitely sweating bullets because there's a lot of things to remember, and hopefully it all works just like it's supposed to. So with that being said, let's just jump on over into Inventor and let's just take a look at this. So you can see here's a part I've created. This is a breadboard. Yeah, I create all this and I'm wanting to use this for an electronics project that I have with an Inventor and add wiring and components and all that stuff. So before we do that, something that we have to do, all right, is we have to go out there and add what we call pins to every one of these ports so we can basically get wiring to go from pin to pin. Now unfortunately, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to place pins, but you're going to have to deal with the panel that's not there by default. So I'm going to show you how to turn that on. So all you have to do is you have to come down here and look where I'm up here in the ribbon. If you right click, you can see here within show panels, what you need to have open is harness. So when you pick on harness and open that up, here's what you're going to be seeing. It's just a small little sliver of a panel here. The one thing that we're going to be talking about is this right here, and this is how we place pins. So how do we place a pin? Well, it's relatively easy. So if I come up here and say place pin, and if I come over here and get close, okay, to where one of these ports are, if I get close enough to the circle and pick on it, we can see that point shows up. It's saying it's going to place pin 1. I'm going to go ahead and green check it. If we want to place a second one, we're going to come up here, place a pin, get close to the circle. That point's going to show up. We're going to green check it. All right, now I understand that is tedious and that is scary. And yes, there are 400 ports that make up this breadboard. It's absolutely insane. But you have it done once, you save the IPT, you'll never have to worry about it again. All right, so that's sort of the process that you're going to have to kind of follow in order to place those pins. All right, luckily for us, I already have something ready for us to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. So this is an assembly. I've gone out there, I've thrown in just 3 sample resistors, and yes, there's a pin placed on every single port. Now we're ready to get started on wiring, so let's get going on it. All right, so if you come up here and go to environments, what you're going to be seeing available to you is cable and harness. Like I said, we've all probably seen it up there, maybe just never tinkered with it. Well, we're going to show you that tonight. So we're going to pick on cable and harness. It's going to be giving us a name for our assembly, and then all it's asking us to do is just locate where we want to make sure that this is saved. So I've created an electronics project folder. It's out there, and I'm going to go ahead and just save this assembly to it by saying OK. Now when we do this, and this is a little bit goofy, it does go transparent, and the reason is when we're designing with wires, it wants it to go transparent so we can sort of manipulate and sort of navigate around and making sure that we kind of know where our wiring is going. It's a little bit, I don't know if I would do it this way or I would be setting it up this way, but it is what it is. So here's how we do it. In order to create a wire, what you have to do is come out here and pick on create wire, and then it's just a matter of going out there and placing or picking on the 2 pins that you want that wire to go to. So I'm going to come here to pin 1, and I'm going to come all the way over here and go to pin 400. All right, the category is the type of wire. If we pick on this, we can see all sorts of different types of wiring that's available. I just always use generic, and I know with breadboards we're probably using 22, 24 gauge wire. So if we look in here, you can see there's all sorts of different wiring that's available. I'm going to just stick with a 22 gauge wire, and I'm going to make sure it's red. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now when I do that, I'm going to come up here, go to my rendered display, pick on rendered display, and now I'm going to go ahead and just finish my cable and harness. So the wiring goes across there, but we can see automatically that there's a problem, and the wiring is going actually through the breadboard. This is no good. So let me show you how we can go out there and route that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here, I'm going to double click on harness to go in and edit that, and then what I should be able to do is come out here and I should be able to delete that actual wire that I created earlier. All right, so here's how we can actually do this. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to create a wire, and I'm going to say I want to go from pin 1 all the way to pin 400. I'm going to make sure it's a 22 gauge red wire. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So it's going to go across it. But now what we're going to do is go out there and create a segment. So I'm going to pick on segment. Right, and as I get close to the breadboard, you're going to see something happens. It sort of gives you this blue pin, and we can see that that blue pin is offset off the surface 0.1. Can we change the offset? Sure we can. All we have to do is right click, come out here, pick on edit the offset, and now we can specify the distance we want that pin to be, okay, off of the surface. But 0.1 works for me. I'm going to go ahead and say okay. I'm going to come right here to the surface, so this is where this wire is going to start. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just place the path that I want this wire to follow all the way over here to pin 400. Now I'm going to warn you, as you are creating this path, you have to be careful not to get really tight on your turns, because it will fail when you go to create the wire. All right, so once we have created that segment, we can see this big blue sort of segment. It's sort of the path that it's going to be throwing that wire to. All right, here's how we do this. All right, all we have to do is come up here, go to automatic routes. All we have to do is now pick the wire. That wire is now knowing that it's going to be going to this segment. We say okay. We're going to come up here, go to render display, make sure that is rendered. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and finish the cable and harness. Now we can see that that wire just followed it. We can see it's 0.1 off the actual breadboard. It's going from pin 1 to pin 400. Now, for some reason in Inventor, it wants to give it this loom, all right? And the loom color by default is this glossy blue. Doesn't make any sense. We want the whole thing to be red. So let me show you how we fix that. If we double click here on the harness and we come down here and go to segments, we can find our segment number 1, right click on it. Now you can come and pick on the harness properties. You can go to display, uncheck where it says from loom, and now from this list we can pick any color that we want. In this case it's red. We say apply and OK, and now we can finish this, and now it looks like that red wire. All right, the other thing we have running, or problem that we have running for us right now, is the fact that this wire is basically going through a resistor. So let me show you how we can do a tweak on that. So we can double click right here on the wire. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to say I want to add a point. I'm going to put that point right here, okay, where this is intersecting with that resistor. I'm going to right click and say finish, and now I'm going to come in, I'm going to right click right on top of that point, and I'm going to come here where it says 3D move and rotate. When we do that, we can see that the triad shows up. I'm going to pick on that arrow and I'm going to pull this up the distance that I want that to come off of the board. All right, and it's just going to be jumping and leapfrogging right over the top of the resistor. I green check it, I finish the cable and harness, and now I can see that that is no longer a problem. All right, kind of cool stuff, right? All right, so that's just one individual wire. All right, so let's say we have multiple wires and we want all those to be sort of banded together and going from one point to another. Let me show you how to take care of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here, I'm going to go back into harness, I'm going to create another wire. I'm going to say I want to create one wire, I don't know, we'll just say, yeah, we'll keep this simple. We'll just say we're going to want one orange wire that's going to go, I don't know, from this point, let's say down to this point. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, so we can see an orange wire is there. We're going to create another wire, and this time it's going to be a 22 gauge. We're going to go ahead and keep it white and go from this point to this point. I'm going to say OK on that, create another wire. In this case, it's going to be a 22 gauge yellow. It's going to go from this point to this point. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Hang in there with me. There is a point to this, I promise. And let's say, I don't know, we're going to go with a 22 gauge blue wire. And we're going to take it from this point here to this point. So maybe we want to bundle all those together into one loom. All right, we can totally do that. We can come up here, go to create segment. And I'm going to go ahead and just start this probably like at this platform here. And I'm going to go ahead and just take these. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and just offset this a little bit. Bring this over and then bring it back just right here in front of where all these meet on these pins here at the end. I'm going to right click and say finish. So that segment has been created. Now check this out. I'm going to come up and go to automatic route. Instead of just picking one wire this time, I'm going to pick 1, 2, 3, and 4 wires. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now we're going to see that those are all going, all right, and bundled together, all right, in that segment. I'm going to come up here to render display. And yeah, let's just go ahead and finish the cable and harness, and let's just see what that just did. All right, pretty sweet stuff, right? All right, so yeah, when it does this, if we were to go into the actual loom and check things out, what it's doing is it's giving us that thickness, because that's actually what all those wire diameters, if we added them all up, that's actually going to be the diameter of all those wires together. So if we want to change that, like that looks like shrink tubing in my opinion, all we have to do is come here to segment 2, right click, oops, I have to double click here on harness first to get back in to edit that, right click here on segment 2, harness properties, and this time I'm going to come here to display, and I'm going to change my loom color from a blue, and we're going to send that over to a black color. We're going to say apply and OK, finish that cable and harness, and there you go. We've just bundled a bunch of wires together and done it that way. So there's a lot there, people. I know that, and your heads are probably exploding. That's a lot of information. Very fun thing once you sort of learn it, but just a couple things to get you going. It's very exciting stuff. I hope you have a great time with it. Vex Robotics people, you are welcome. Just know, and I'm sure you all know this, the parts are out there online. You can pull those parts in, start adding pins, and start doing all of your wiring. So, hey, thanks for joining me for this week's TNT Tuesday. I hope you have a great week. Take care.